everyone. Welcome to the CoStar News Hotels podcast. I'm news editor Shah here today with AHLA's Chirag Shah. Chirag is Executive Vice President of Public Policy. I almost messed that up, but I didn't. I saved it at the last second. Chirag, how are you doing today?
Doing real well. Good to be with you. Thanks so much for having us.
Oh, thanks for coming. So I guess we'll start this conversation very broadly. Obviously, AHLA has no shortage of things that you guys are kind of dealing with at the moment, just like the broader hotel industry. Kind of what do you see as the top industry issues, or maybe more specifically, the top issues from an AHLA perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. As the voice of the industry, I think our issues are those that we hear from our members and that we are watching very closely with the broader lodging economy. And so those issues that really affecting hoteliers and our folks on the front lines are those that we're not only reacting to, but we're also planning for strategically. Top of mind for us, first and foremost, has long been addressing labor shortages. More than half of AHLA members continue to experience labor shortages, and so ensuring that folks have enough workers to be able to support their guests, provide the excellent customer service that we are known for in the hospitality industry is top of mind. We're also watching very closely a lot of the policy proposals, both at a federal, but then also at a state and local level as well. We want to ensure that we have welcoming policies to the United States when it comes to these mega events that we're expecting here in 2026, next year, as well as in the Olympics in 28. This is a once in a generation opportunity to have to have the World Cup, to have the Olympics, the America 250 celebration. And so anything that we can do from a public policy perspective to ensure that we're streamlining visa processing times and making it easier for people to come to the country, whether it's security screenings or visa fees or anything along those lines, we're having those conversations with policymakers, but also to achieve positive outcomes when it comes to trade discussions and sending that, continuing to send that positive message to the rest of the world. Some great progress on that front over the last week and a half or so, where the White House, as well as the Indian Prime Minister, has shared a new framework for trade policy there. We're optimistic that momentum can carry forward into a welcoming message to the rest of the world. And that's also buoyed by something that will be renegotiated here in the next couple of months, the U.S., Mexico, Canada free trade agreement. And so that will also be helpful. There are a number of other issues as well, I know we'll chat about, but those are some of the things that are top of mind for us.
So I guess in the context of talking about trade agreements, I'm wondering from your perspective, obviously the cost of tariffs and all of that impact the hotel industry with FF&E buying, all sorts of different things. But is that the main issue when you think of that, or is it more of you want the world to see, we're open for business, we're welcoming? Is it more perception than, the dollars and cents of it?
I think it's all of the above. As I mentioned, we have the opportunity for a once in a generation increase in travel to the United States. Yeah. And so first and foremost, celebrating that opportunity with I think it's 78 matches across the entire across North America, across the United States, 11 different cities, and really highlighting and showcasing America for what it is to the world. And so there's a tremendous opportunity there. There have been cost increases. We've been experiencing this to pre-pandemic levels. Costs are outpacing revenue by 4 times. And so whether it is labor costs or insurance costs, utilities, maintenance, litigation exposure, taxes, and our supply chain issues, those costs continue to rise. And so we want to make sure that we have a very stable foreign policy, but also one that provides us with the opportunity to really showcase America for international visitors.
So, obviously, as you brought up already, we're only, a month or so away from World Cup activities that really picking up again. Do you feel like the stage is set for that to be as big of a success for U.S. and the U.S. hoteliers as we would have hoped, years ago when we found out that we were going to host it?
Yeah, I think so. I think the anticipation for the world coming to the United States is there. That what we're hearing from folks in the reports, hundreds of millions of people are interested in tickets to the World
Hmm.
Cup. We're expecting 6.5 million fans, creating 32,000 new jobs. And so these are huge numbers that
Yeah.
will certainly help the United States in recapturing some of our market share of international visitors. And I think the key here is that we can't just allow these events to occupy a moment in time, but rather
Yeah.
they need to be a catalyst moving forward.
Hmm.
And so ensuring that we have appropriate funding levels for our international marketing arm of Brand USA. So capitalizing on the event here, recapturing that market share, and then moving forward into the next several years, so folks not only visit once, but then come back to see the rest of the country.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously every hotelier who would be listening to this would agree with that line of thought.
Sure.
Do you feel like the political will is there to invest in making the US feel as welcoming as, we would like for not just this event like you're saying, but this to be the catalyst of no longer sliding in the wrong direction in the inbound versus outbound calculation?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think when you talk to policymakers from every level of government, but I think in particular, there's a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of excitement about these events. And so, especially when you're talking to folks on a one-on-one level and saying that these are the most critical things that are happening. And that's why we are heartened by some of these developments, especially when it comes to foreign policy and international trade. We can set a great benchmark there that will reinforce the importance of America as a travel destination for the rest of the world.
Yeah. And obviously the investment in Brand USA is probably pretty massive. As somebody who, works internationally as a part of my job and has colleagues all around the world, I do hear the perception a lot, even from people who might be excited about something about the World Cup, is like, is this really the time I want to go to the US? Or, I mean, a lot of that is earned. A lot of it is just, assumptions made by people far away from the country, but it seems like that's a battle that we're in the middle of fighting, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I tell you, once folks are here, our goal has long been that if they have a seamless experience getting to the country, then
Hmm.
they're going to really enjoy their experience while they're in the country, and that's what they're
Yeah.
going to take back with them. And
Yeah.
so our industry has long had that as a hallmark, and so we're optimistic that we're going to capitalize on
I mean, that's kind of marketing e-commerce 101, right? Like put as
that.
few obstacles in between the consumer and them giving you their money as possible, right?
That's
That's
right.
where we want to be.
That's right.
So you brought, when I asked you the question about what the top issues are, obviously you opened with labor.
Yep.
Now we're still in a challenging labor environment for sure, but I've noticed, at least from my perspective, there's been kind of a shift in how hoteliers are talking about it. Maybe not as dire as it was immediately post pandemic. Kind of how would you describe the labor environment from your perspective, and what can we really do to continue improving it?
I think that's a really good way of looking at it. It remains a challenge, but we are trending in a good direction. Our survey results are bearing that out from where we were certainly in the middle of the pandemic. But as we were coming out of it, the folks that have been returning those surveys saying that their severe staffing shortage isn't as acute as it perhaps was. That's a very positive trend. We're looking at creating 30,000 new jobs in 2026. And so that is another significant opportunity for the industry. And so trending in the right direction, but those challenges remain. And so when you do have those staffing shortages, that means that certain amenities can't be offered, or that means that there's going to be a loss or certain inefficiencies going on with the property just because you don't have the right staffing. One of the areas that we've been very focused on, one of our team members, Ashley McNeil, has been running the H2B Coalition, which is north of 500 businesses,
Yeah.
business groups here in Washington, D.C., to ensure that policymakers understand the importance of seasonal workers. These are guest workers coming to the United States. I know your listeners know that process all too well. And we were very pleased that through the advocacy efforts of the last year, that the Department of Homeland Security increased the number of H-2B visas, effectively doubling it just a couple of weeks ago. And so there is incremental progress, but the challenges still remain.
And any of our listeners who are interested in learning more about that, I will note that we actually did a full episode with Ashley about that exact
That's right.
program. So if they feel like going to dig into the archives, they can do so. I guess along the still along the lines of labor, obviously the issue of immigration kind of runs in tandem with labor in a lot of people's minds. I am assuming that I mean, it's been a hot button political issue for longer than a lot of us have been alive at this point. I mean, is there really any hope that we're going to see functional immigration reform in a way that helps support the labor environment in the near, medium, long term future at this point?
I like the way you phrase that, near, medium, and long term. I think that's something that we're continuing to engage in. I mean, I don't think it's any big secret that we are in the second year of a congressional cycle. It is an election year, midterm year, in a very razor thin margins on either side of the aisle and in both congressional chambers. And so the opportunity to get any major piece of legislation done is limited. But we are optimistic that these issues continue to resonate with policymakers. And so we continue to be involved in the discussions across the board. I think you're starting to see that from folks because it's not, it doesn't fall across partisan lines the way it perhaps it used to. I think every member of Congress appreciates the workforce challenges in their specific districts. And so as we have hoteliers that are speaking with their members of Congress, we're bringing hoteliers to Washington, D.C. We're doing heart of house tours with policymakers that fall on all ends of the political spectrum. And they all fully appreciate the importance of ensuring that we have a robust workforce within the industry, but also the importance of individuals coming to America from foreign countries as well. So those discussions are ongoing, and we do have a significant opportunity there, in addition to some of the guest worker programs that we already talked about.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you were mentioning with the seasonal workers, a lot of times these are human beings, and obviously we don't want to boil down their lives to just numbers on a spreadsheet, but there is very simple supply demand dynamics with all of this, that the fewer people you have to work, the more expensive they're going to be to get them through the door, right? This is It's economics 101, so I don't need to explain that to you or any of our listeners, really. So I mean, beyond those kind of top headline issues, what do you think are kind of the under the radar policy or other issues that the industry is facing right now?
I don't know if it's under the radar as much as it is something that has become a new normal, which has been extremely frustrating for the industry. I think everybody appreciates it because it's the headline, but it's also hitting the P&L, which is the challenge of uncertainty brought on by shutdowns. And so whenever there's a government shutdown, that sets the lodging industry back. It creates substantial uncertainty for hoteliers, particularly those that rely on whether it's government travel or certain conferences or various other things that are on the calendar. You can never recapture that demand once it goes away. And so those challenges, the tumultuous nature of shutdowns, is something that we've been making sure that policymakers understand how it impacts local communities. Thankfully, we were able to avoid a substantial shutdown, but DHS remains in the crosshairs there, and that's going to affect travel in a lot of ways, from air traffic controllers to TSA to others. And so that's an area that we're watching very closely. We're also very concerned at a local level, and in some cases state level, about this idea that you can just tax your way into prosperity, especially when you put hotels in the crosshairs. There is a drying up of certain funds that were available to localities from whether it was COVID relief funding or other sources. And those were one-time or very limited funds. And there are a lot of programs that were funded through those programs. And so now they're looking at, well, how do we bridge that gap? How do we address budget shortfalls? And a lot of ways, localities are saying, well, why don't we just put a tax on folks that can't vote in these communities?
Yeah.
Those are guests.
That's it. That's 100% it, too. Yeah. I will say, from my time as a local news reporter, that's 100% the mentality, is the person who pays this tax is not the person who votes for or against me.
Right, exactly. And, while that may feel good on paper, it really causes tremendous strain for hotels. It's driving people to other markets. But it also becomes a huge challenge for those local communities in the long run. What we believe is a short-sighted policy. Hoteliers should be involved in the process. They should they should be in constant conversation with local policymakers to ensure that we are not creating a bigger problem than otherwise exists. But we should also ensure that everybody in the community has a hand in ensuring that community's prosperity. And so
Yeah.
some of these tax policies are those that we're also watching very closely and working with our partners at the state lodging associations as well to ensure that everybody's voice is heard on these issues.
Yeah. The irony of that line of thinking too is, and I think your boss, Rosanna Maeda, put it like perfectly on the main stage at Alice just a few weeks ago, when the irony is that, like, in terms of taxation, it's not just free money that nobody actually has to pay. There's still consequences. But where that logic bears out and is true is in international travel. Like, we should be putting that energy into getting international travelers, because those are people that we don't pay for. We don't pay for all of the social services and infrastructure, but they do come here and they spend their money. Like, that's where that logic actually applies, and we don't really think about it that way.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you make that comparison because international visitors spend by I think on average $4,000. They stay on average I think it's around 18 nights, and so it's a significant increase for us. But interestingly enough, it is also an area where it is considered a service export. Much
Hmm.
like other parts of the economy, you don't want to have a trade deficit when it comes to
Yeah.
travel. There's foreign dollars coming into the United States, and that's the message that we have been sharing with policymakers with the administration as well as on Capitol Hill for many, many years, especially when it comes to reauthorizing Brand USA.
Yeah. And especially for an administration that I think we can all agree is acutely attuned to trade deficits.
Hmm.
If you view inbound, outbound trends, I mean, the EU would just be eating our lunch in terms of travel deficits right now. It's just, you would think that would be an easy line to sell, but you would know close more than I would about that, because that's your job.
And I think folks are receptive to that as well. It is consistent with the trade policy of this administration, but it is also, I think, an economic reality. Whether it's at a state level where you're talking about state governments that invest in their marketing programs, whether you talk about the federal side where it's so critical that we continue to market the United States. It's something that policymakers are very receptive to.
Hmm. So I want to jump back to a topic you were talking about before, and we don't have to do a deep dive or anything, but you obviously were mentioning the impacts of government shutdowns.
Mhm.
Are you concerned at all from your perspective that it seems to be increasingly, just a political tool, and it always has been a
Yeah.
political tool, but increasingly it's a political tool that policymakers are much more comfortable kind of using on a regular basis? I mean, we didn't used to face government shutdowns on a quarterly basis like we seem to do now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is an area that when we start looking at what those deadlines are and going through the regular process, which has been abandoned over the last decade and some change to fund the government, we are concerned about it. And as an industry, we don't prescribe blame on either political side or any specific issue because
I'm sure
hotels
there's
are not.
plenty to go around, right?
Yeah, hotels are not political. Everybody needs
Yeah,
needs a
yeah.
place to stay, and so and we have hotels in every single community, and so sharing the economic impact on jobs and on workers in the local community, on the small business hoteliers who depend on a very certain travel schedule. To ensure that they can make their mortgage payments and that they can pay their workers and that they can reinvest in their local communities is so critical, and that's why we continue to have those conversations. We were very pleased by the trajectory of the last round of discussions when it came to funding the government. There's obviously some challenges that came up, but policymakers really came together to pass funding for a majority of the government, and that was positive. So if we're going to take a silver lining out of the most recent conditions, that is one, and we're optimistic that moving forward we'll hopefully govern less by crisis and more sort of the strategic view of the economy.
Hmm. I think that's an aspiration we can all agree with.
That's also our job to be a little bit aspirational, but again, trend lines are there, and so we'll build on that if nothing else.
So I will give you the opportunity to be the optimist one more time before we wrap this up.
Sure.
I mean, full view 26, obviously, we've heard a lot over the past month about people's expectations for the year. some good, some bad, some in the middle. What is your feeling of kind of the overall for 26, and what do you think we'll be talking about by the time we reach the end of this year?
I think that there is reasons for optimism. The hotel industry has proven resilient. Our state of the industry report from 25 into 26 demonstrates that resilience. But I think that when you look at some of the numbers, there is significant reason for optimism. We're increasing wages from 128 to 130 billion. Taxes
Hmm.
and contributions to local communities are going to go from 85 to 87 billion. We're going to increase jobs by 30,000. The mega events is another great reason for optimism. As we mentioned, this is not just an event on the calendar, but rather the opportunity to reorient travel to the United States for a generation. And so there is a significant opportunity for us to capture the opportunity and meet the moment. And so if
Hmm.
we do that, we'll be looking back at the end of the year as having achieved something significant and riding that momentum into 27.
I think that's a good way to frame it, because I've heard the resilience idea from a few people recently, and I also get the strong sense from them that they'd rather not need to be resilient, at
Yeah.
least for a little while.
Yeah,
All
we've
right.
been through a lot. We have been through a lot, but there is significant reason for that optimism, particularly this year. We're seeing the Olympics right now. We're seeing folks rallying to travel, and so we think that the World Cup can be that catalyst. The Olympics can be that catalyst, and certainly the celebration of America's 250th birthday. And another reason for optimism is domestic travel is up
Hmm.
21 points from pre-pandemic levels. So folks want to get out, they want to meet people, they want to celebrate, and let's give them that opportunity to do it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you, Sean. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Luke Haynes, People Newsletter Editor, CoStar News, and the host of Top Credentials, a monthly podcast exploring the colourful careers of those working at the top of UK commercial real estate. In the episodes, we discover the valuable lessons influencing the daily decision-making of property sector leaders, and hear about the aspects of their job that make it a little easier to get out of bed each morning. We'll also ask for their views on the latest news and policies shaping our constantly evolving industry, and even get them to share a famous quote or song title they think defines their career or the profession. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of the CoStar News Hotels podcast was recorded on February 17th, 2026, and edited by me, Sean McCracken. Visit costar.com/hotel news for more coverage and find all of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen.